Lead with Legacy, the official podcast of IOL Global. Here, we will explore leadership that outlives titles and trends. Through conversations with faith-based and marketplace leaders, we will discuss integrity, conviction, and purpose. To learn more about us, visit us at iolglobal.com. Hello, welcome to this episode of the Lead with Legacy podcast. We're so excited today to have Dr. Ellen Ramsey. We met a couple years ago via LinkedIn, and we were on a project together, and we just kind of got to know each other. We kind of fellowship back and forth via emails and messages and stuff, and she's definitely was high on the list to have on this podcast. She's so brilliant, so intelligent. And so we're going to do a little shameless plug. If you haven't liked and subscribed, or if you haven't followed us on whatever platform you're listening on, please do so. We would love to have you be a part of that and be a part of future conversations that we're having. If you ever want to be on the show, contact us. We'd love to talk to you about being on the show. This is just an easy conversation kind of podcast just to talk about leadership and different things that people have going on, utilizing their leadership journey in the past, what they utilize now, lessons learned over the time in different kind of leadership models. So without further ado, I thank you so much for coming today and joining us on here, Ellen. And I'm going to let you take a little time to tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you at? All this kind of, whatever you want to share.
Thank you so much, Amanda and Sloane. I really appreciate being on here and just sharing of ideas, and whoever can learn from whatever we talk about or what have you. But I guess this span, I always remember what have you done between the dash, born and hopefully many years ahead. But I've been in industry. I'm a college professor with leadership and management courses, mostly MBA, and also our undergrads in their capstone, guiding the future leaders of tomorrow, I'd say. But I have so many different environments that I've been in over the last 30 some odd years that it's been a real great moment for me to see what's worked for others, what hasn't, what you can learn positively, and what you can learn from negative outcomes that you've witnessed of leaders who don't really do a great job of feeding the soul or making their employees feel valued and appreciated. So from that's where I learn from what to do for future people.
Yeah. And so you are in Florida.
Yes.
Which we're super jealous about. But that's okay. It's just because we're in the middle of the United States. And so we're jealous that you're in Florida. And so let's just talk a little bit about your work. I know you just spoke a little bit about it. You do teaching, executive coaching, consulting. What experiences most shaped your understanding of leadership and your desire for others to grow?
Well, I wouldn't say one specific example. I would say over time, even when I led a radio program with finance, it's just about different people that come into our lives unexpectedly, like you and I never know we would have met, and made a beautiful friendship from there, and a respect for one another.
Yeah.
And so I would say what shaped me is also my professors, as far as using the golden rule, or I don't want to say the word scare tactics. They might have been a sweetheart, but in the classroom, there was a way to guide you so that you could think quickly on your feet. So different examples like that have shaped me, as well as what kind of instructor would I like to be for my students. And the value that I see is when I receive my course evaluations that are consistently high, and what they've learned. And then they come back to me years from now, also through LinkedIn. It warms my heart that, okay, I've made a positive impact in their lives, because I respect them as well. It's not like an authority figure. Okay, you're taking my class because you want the education. Also, the MBA students that might be even older than me coming back into the academia. So I just lead. I'm a person of faith, so I lead when I put my head on the pillow at night. What do I want to say? How I've treated others, and that's just whether it be personal life, work life, people that I might meet at the grocery store. It's just that how I lead my life, and it's not to say there's perfection at all. You have learning.
There's no perfection in it.
No,
but yeah,
not
I do
at
think
all.
I think it makes a difference when you have that kind of mindset of, we're leading as a Christ follower because we're leading we talked about this on another show, maybe more than one, but in my opinion, Jesus was like the prime example of, a leader. And so if we follow that example, I think that the better we try to follow it, and again, like you said, there's no perfection in it, right? But the better we try to follow that leadership example, our leadership will improve. The way that we deal with other people, the way that we deal with ourselves when emotions are high, or there's, like this morning, we just had what seemed like 1,000 things, before we ever even started. Phones were dinging, messages were dinging, this and that. But it's a matter of like, how do you deal with those situations? And when our emotions, and I'm not an expert at it, but it's just trying to navigate, okay, like nothing is anybody's fault. We just need to correct and move this way or that way. And I can imagine when you're teaching students, because I have not, well, other than kids, I haven't taught with adults, but I have worked with so many of you who do. And I can imagine that you kind of have to take a different take on it when you're dealing, like you said, with your peers or with people that are even older than you, and trying to train them and teach them. You can't be like, oh, you're going to do this way, and, be that authority in it versus, I mean, there has to be a happy medium, right? There's going to
Absolutely.
be, but people will respect you, if you lead well. And so, yeah, I'm so honored and blessed to know you. I think the world of you, very, very highly. I follow you. I think other people should follow you and the stuff that you're doing. You're brilliant and very humble in it. I'm going to let Sloane ask a few questions here and kind of get involved. Sloane is our director of operations with in the Institute for Organizational Leadership, which is IOL Global. And she is the brains and the power behind all the things that we're doing. She's amazing. So I'm going to let her kind of ask some questions so that you can stop listening to me for a minute.
Well, good morning. I'm excited to jump in here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Create Leadership Model and the Create Leadership Compass that you developed. So, what inspired you to create those frameworks, and what do they help leaders see about themselves?
What it inspired me is that, through theory and textbook and knowledge that we've gained in academia, I've seen many men develop models and ways of behavior, and that's fine, but I'm saying, where are all the women? And not to use a gender issue at all. And again, when we were talking about Christ, that's just what I follow. In my academia, I don't, push my views on anyone. With politics as well, it's the students to grow and let them find out. But I feel if I lead by example, that's just who I am. And, Jesus was a gentle soul. So that's how I interpret life, and would like to be, treat others as you'd like to be treated. So that's exactly my theme. But getting back to the Create Leadership Model, I thought, well, what better way other than just textbook theory and just, okay, this is a model, but how do you treat others and human-centered leadership? So I came up with this framework, and CREATE is an acronym, CREATE, for different avenues, so that leaders can decide, okay, how I'm working, but how can I improve? And just it's not just an assessment, but it's a framework to lead by. So I thought, and I had a pilot study also with a CEO that had contacted me. And I'm so thrilled to work with him and his team, because they were also, in an engineering aspect. So they had the technical, and some were great with the leading, but others weren't, because they weren't based on self-reliance or emotional awareness, reading a room. You had the brilliance, but then how you talk to others can also affect how they, are working on, if you're stressed or yelled at, just say, not that this happened, but just generally, how are you going to, I don't want to work, I don't want to work under those conditions. And then your morale,
Yeah.
as far as you want the sunny days rather than the dark cloud. So
I
that's
think
really in a
too, people are
nutshell.
much more apt to take criticism if it needs to be given, because we all need some criticism, right? I don't even
Yes.
know if criticism is the right word, as
Constructive feedback.
yeah, I mean, look, there's not a day that goes by that I don't need that too, and so I think that people are more apt to receive that well if we're generally leading well. And we're not doing like the whole screaming, yelling, throwing a fit, you didn't do this right, it was wrong, or, the feeling of being unworthy at your job or what you're doing. Cause like you're saying, you're dealing with brilliant people, right? who are brilliant in their own right, but they might only be brilliant with this one thing because they haven't expanded their knowledge to these emotional intelligence kind of things and being aware of the way that they're behaving or the way that they're acting, or maybe even just the way that it comes off, right? Because I know that sometimes it's me, just like if I have 1,000 things going on, it's not that I'm not caring. My brain is in a different place. And I think that happens a lot of times with really technical people too, is that their brain is so honed in on what they're working on. They're not really thinking about like, well, what does Ellen think about what I'm thinking about or what, And so learning those skills are learnable. They're trainable. So I like that you've created that too. And that you're willing to kind of get in the trenches and deal, like teach people how to manage that kind of stuff. Sorry, I kind of took over, but I like that
No,
idea.
not at all. It's a conversation. I don't
Yeah.
want to be on a pulpit at all because there's things that I can still learn. We're constantly learning.
Yeah.
A PhD doesn't mean, okay, checkpoint, you're done.
It doesn't? No.
you're constantly learning from others. And a title to me, okay, not to sound philosophical, but when we pass, we don't take our titles or
Right.
other monetarily stuff with us, so what do we leave behind? What is it that can be written about us or how others felt in our presence? And yes, you can't be, you're not an automaton robot where you're going to be perfect always, but you can learn, and it's not toxic positivity, like positive all the time. It's like
Yeah.
you learn, and that's how leaders can learn also from experiences. The more experiences, there's growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that too, the the freedom, the comfort of the space to be in. I know like Sloane and I, we work very, very closely together almost every day. And so it's like this the opportunity just to be real and be who you are. And I love her for who she is. I'm grateful for her for who she is. And that does not mean she's perfect, but it means that, she is real about who she is. This is my strength. This is my weakness. I'm not good at this, but I'm great at this. And just being able to kind of flow through that and learn from each other too, and be respectful of who each other, who our teams are. And how they like to work and how they work well. I think a lot of times we try to put people in a box and go, hey, I want you to do this way, only this way. And it's like, well, if you would let them have a little bit of room outside that box, they might do amazing things that you're not letting them do.
Absolutely. Yes. Even talking about team dynamics, that's a whole other topic, but it's true. It's like, again, you can't just cookie cutter people in a cookie cutter type of framework
Yeah.
because emotions might run high, or there are people that aren't extroverts and they internally have brilliant ideas as well, but not given the time or the ability to have that growth, because if you don't have experiences, it just can stay stagnant. So communication and trust is so important, because once trust erodes, that's really hard to get that back, whether it be in business or personal lives.
You mentioned toxic positivity, and I'm so glad you did, right? Because
Oh,
it is a real thing, right? It is a real thing. And so I know that if I come in and I'm really struggling with something, and if Miss Amanda was like, everything's great, it's perfect, everything's great, keep going, live, laugh, love, glitter, all kinds of things.
She's not, by the way.
But then I would think, oh, well, it's me. It's just me. It was just me, And so those emotions that we bring into our workplace, because we are humans, like you said, we're not robots. You think, oh, that's just me. And so you cram it down and it festers. But we do have a great relationship. We work very closely together. And I can say, you know what? This morning has been really stinky. Can we just stop and pray? And we do, and so, or if I'll be over there huffing and puffing, she'll say, why don't you just take a lap? And I'm like, that's what I need. Yes, I need a lap. I don't need, I don't need a plaque that tells me just to fake it till I make it. I need to
Yeah.
get up out of my seat, get a cup of coffee, take a break. And so we do have to be careful with that positivity. It's necessary, but it has to be authentic, right? But we do have to recognize when people aren't in a positive situation and maybe the outlook isn't positive, and how can we minister to them in that moment. And so that's very important.
exactly. And also being able to be aware of someone, even if you've known them a while, you could say something doesn't seem right with them. Let me talk with them. Or if you don't know them well, you can just say, is everything okay? Or what can I do to assist? Or what can I make this class or this, I'm talking about academics. How can I make the class more enriching? Or if you're working with your team, how can this be more enjoyable for you as we reach the bottom line and the scope of the project? We have outside lives as well, and that can affect what's going on in the company. So how can we, not to say separate it, but we care about you as a human being, not just, okay, the deliverables, get this done and
Right.
go home. How do we support you as one of our teammates? So and
Yeah.
people
I
can
think
tell the
for
difference.
I think for a long time we had this kind of like, I guess culture of like, oh well, home is at home and work is at work. And I think to an extent that's true, right? Because when we come to work, we need to focus. We need to be focused on the job that we're doing. But I think that it got too stringent because I have a life. I have a family. I have things going on. There's, I got to, my car broke down or this happened or that happened or whatever. That's real life. And I think we tried for a while there as a society to like really, really separate the two. And I don't think that you really can. I think that if you're a leader, you need to know your team. If your team is 10 or 100, now you're not, if you have 100 people that you're leading, or that you're managing or whatever, you're not going to know every single detail, but I do think it's your job to know. I think it's your job to know those people well enough to go, hey, you seem a little off today, like you said. What's going on? Is there something we can help with? And then I think as leaders, as C-suite, as teachers, as instructors, it's our job to not only be in tune to that, but to have some like fail safes for that. Like, hey, I'm so sorry you had a bad day. Now, in academia, of course, you're going to have people who are like, oh, my car broke down and my kid's sick and this, and it's every other day. And you're going to have to put a stop to that. But when you know your people well, when somebody is off. And there's something going on. And I think that, in my opinion, it's the people that as leaders will pour into that and say, hey, you know what? Don't even worry about it today. Don't worry about this day. Go do what you need to do with your family or your car or whatever needs to be done. And let's regroup tomorrow. And one of the reasons why is, let's say Sloane has some major thing going on. And I know that she's reliable. I know I can count on her to be here and to do the things that she needs to do or to get them done remote or whatever the case may be. But she comes to me and she says, hey, we have this major thing, it's an issue. If she tries to work during that time, she's not going to be very productive in the work that she does, right? And so is it better off for me, the business, her, our clients, everybody, for her just to take a break, do what she needs to do to solve that problem or to come down from that issue or whatever it is, and then come back and regroup and start again? And in my opinion, I think when you're attuned to your teams or the people that you're close with or that you're leading or training, you're going to get a lot more productivity out of that. I think you have to set boundaries and you have to say, look, you can't call in 5 times a week. We're going to have a problem. Or when the 10th time you've called in because there's a problem, you're taking advantage of me. But I think that in most cases, if we're really attuned and we're really looking out for people and kind of looking out for the situation as a whole, they're more apt to be honest and upfront with you and say, this is the situation.
Absolutely. And people can tell the difference between being authentic and really truthful and honest versus those who are just saying certain things just because they think that's the way it should
Right.
be. You need to have empathy
Yeah.
for others, because if we don't put ourselves in someone else's shoes, and I don't want to sound like a cliche, but it's true. Even I have some exercises on, you might not be thinking a specific way about this type of person. If you were them, how would they handle a situation? And then it just like opens your eyes a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we also talk about, when people say business is business, on the flip side as well, how can you be one way at home and then unethical in business?
Right.
It's just like not a great way to be. Because how do you sleep at night knowing that I don't want to say that, I don't want to say screwing over somebody, but whatever the word I can't think, as far as your clients or even competitors. I mean, there's enough to go around as far as not having to be so,
As a general rule, just in generalities as a society and as humans and all of that, it's good to just be good to one another, right? But if we're going to biblical principles, then it's even more so important that regardless of the circumstances, that we're doing the right thing. We're doing what we should, even if the bottom line and the dollar amount or whatever is not in our minds going to come out the way that it should. if you're following Christ in your business as well, you're going to be rewarded for that in ways that you can't even imagine. And it may not be money. It may be really, really great teammates. It may be facility. It may be other blessings that come. But if you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, I'm not going to say it's all going to work out, because we all have to walk through
Right.
things, right? There's going to be things we're going to walk through. So I don't want to give like a false kind of a false gospel there that, oh, like if you just do the good things, but no, it's probably not gonna be that good.
Not
In
in our
fact,
timing.
yeah, in my experience, it's, you're gonna get hit with a lot of stuff, but there's a difference there. There's kind of a core difference internally, I think, that that regardless if it's today or 6 years from now, God's gonna work this all out for his good, not mine. It's not about me. It's about what his plans are and what his goals are. So if I'm following that, then it will eventually work out for what his plans are. So, Sloane, what you got for us next?
Absolutely. This kind of touches back on that being authentic, and having textbook knowledge, but then being emotionally intelligent. Many executives are strong, right? They're in strategy and execution, but they struggle with that trust and alignment. And what patterns do you see when leaders reach the point where their technical skills and, I don't know, what do we want to call them, human skills, when they level out? What do you see
When you say level out, when you're saying they're not aligned, or what
when
happens
they become aligned?
when they come aligned?
Yes. What are we seeing that's different? What for the team, for themselves, their leadership style?
Well, it just seems there's more harmony, because I know when you have business, you have to look at the end result and the bottom line. And of course, that is about money many times, but it's also about performance. It's
Hmm.
also about longevity. You could have a client that you get the money, but you treated them poorly, or you didn't get what they wanted, and they go to somebody else.
Right.
But if they see you consistently, they know if someone's acting. So if you're consistently behaving the way that you should be, ethically, morally,
Mm-hmm.
so forth, you can't act like that. When they say sometimes it takes 3 months for someone's true colors to come out, depending, right? So if you're consistently a certain leader, that will show through with your team, even with the CEOs, the CFOs. If you're consistent, that human aspect does take place. Now, I know there's AI, there's positives about AI with performance, as far as, let that do the mundane thing so I can get back to what really matters. And
Yeah.
so if people are using it for the good versus evil, that's where I guess I had the rose-colored glasses on. Like, this can work well. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
people who know AI might take the jobs of those who just don't want to learn more of the technology, and how can that benefit the team and the bottom line. So as far as aligning, it's just something that clicks. Then it's also about more examples that you have.
Yeah, I agree with that
Yeah.
too. And I think, like, let's switch over, because we had some questions about AI too.
Okay.
And we can talk a little bit about that, because I know it's like super hot topic. Everybody wants to talk
Yep.
about. We feel very much the same. We use a lot of AI. We have some strategic partnerships with a couple of people who are deep into AI training, AI governance, and things like that, and just using it wisely, using it well, and being proponents of training their teams. And I'll let Sloane speak about this too, because she's very knowledgeable about this subject matter. But I would say the same. It's a tool, and it's a matter of how you use it, right? I could take any tool and use it poorly or bad, or for things that are not good. And so it's important. And again, I'll let Sloane kind of talk more about this, but it's important that we use these tools wisely. We use them for what what I believe they're intended for, but that we don't replace our people with them, that we train our people how to use them. So, Sloane, I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
No, I had a great conversation the other day with Matt Zimbreski, who does, is it Leading Agility, the AI?
Yeah, AI Agility is this company, and I
AI
think it's
Agility.
leading. Yeah.
And it was great. And we talked about using AI, like you said, to get to the mundane stuff, right? Like I can use AI to summarize and file emails, and I can spend time face to face with people and really develop those relationships that you need to be authentic and real. And we do need a certain level of depth with that, so that we can continue to work together and meet the bottom line, even when it's hard, right? So definitely, I am a fan of AI. I am a proponent of that. I am not a proponent of the mundane work. So yes, I let it do that so that people can be people. But I really like that. I do want to ask you, so your company is called Silver Lining, and I love that. Silver Lining Coaching and Consulting. What does finding the silver lining mean in your work with leaders and organizations?
Well, it's about, I know when you think the silver lining, if there's adversity or something that happens, it's like, okay, let's look at what's the best scenario from this outcome. As we were talking earlier, growth happens after you have certain experiences that might not go the way as planned, but how do you grow from that? And what do you learn from that? So the silver lining to me is letting them know, okay, if you come to me with an issue or I don't want to say problem, but it is most of the time, how can we get our team to align and have that human connection? You learn from the past and how you move forward together as a unit. So that's the way. It's almost like having that positive sound. There's always a silver lining no matter what we go through. There's always a rainbow after the rain. So that's how I like to look at life. That's how I like to look at if I'm helping a CEO or helping their leader of their team, let them know, okay, you're human and you have resilience, but it's also about being there for others and just, don't being so hard on yourself, because if you have the right feelings about what you're doing, then everything else should flow. And we just always learn. So always a learning curve, as well as what we've done in the past and how we can move forward from that. Past performance is not always a guarantee of your future results. However, consistency does matter, as well as having your self-regulation through life.
Self-regulation is important. I worked on that this morning. Full transparency. Still working on self-regulation. Have done it this morning. Check. So
We're laughing because we just have, and not bad, right? It's just like, when the whole day starts with like, this is this and this. And like you said, I don't know. Is it an issue? Is it a problem? I don't know what it is. But I think sometimes for me, for sure, I don't like change. And so it's really, really, I have a hard time. Like, I don't know if you've ever read that book, Who Moved My Cheese? You should read it if you haven't. Everybody should that's listening. It's great. But it's like, my stuff is here. I have my day planned out in my head, right? Like the night before every day I start, I have my list, my task list that I'm going to do. So if I can't, like, there are some days I'm better at this than other days, but if I can't come in and like start working down my list and this happens and that happens, like I get really like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm like discombobulated. Like, oh my gosh, like have a hard time getting back to where I was supposed to be when I get kind of derailed like that. And I'm not saying like it's always negative things. It's just like anything. If you changed it. And so it's something it's a lifelong issue for me that I have to work on. But when you were talking about the silver lining, I'm reminded of a book that I used to read with my dad when I was really little, and I have looked for this book high and low. I don't know the name of the book. All I can tell you, maybe somebody listening can figure out what book this is and let me know a link that I don't know if you can get it anymore or not, because it's, 100 years ago. But so in the book, there was some kind of character, and so there would be like a situation that happened, right? And then the little character would be like, well, it could always be worse. And you would turn the page and something happened and the little character would be like, well, it could always be worse. And you just keep going and going through this book like that. And I wish I knew the book, but anyways, and it's probably a little different than I remember it, I'm sure, but this is what I remember of it. But my takeaway from that is like not to be a humdrum about it, but like to stop and take a minute, like look around, get your surroundings. It could be worse, right? Not to say that there's not really terrible things that happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying like in your everyday, but it could be worse. And so sometimes we just need to take a step back and just say, okay, it's really not that bad that my quote unquote proverbial cheese got moved today. We can handle all of this and we can deal with all of this. And so sometimes it's a good reminder to me to just kind of step back and go, okay, like it could be worse than this. It's okay. It's going to be all right. And so going back to the silver lining thing, I really, really love what you do. I know we've talked about this in the past. Highly, highly recommend your services. I think what you do is amazing. And you really are a very positive person. I know that that's difficult when we go through trials in our life. But I think that that's part of our refining process, right? I think that's what God's, I'm not a proponent of like, oh, God's putting bad things in your path. No, I think we go through things because we are a fallen world, but it's how we go through those things and the refinement that we have in those things. And I'm not going to go into personal details, but I know that we've all been through some things, and going through those things is how we refine who we are, the person that we choose to be or want to be. In my opinion, that's how I know. And it's a long process, and every day is not the same, right? Every
Right.
day I'm not like, oh, okay, so positive and it's so great. There's some days when I'm like, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. But I do think it's a general idea and a general mentality of, hey, we're gonna work through this, we're gonna get through this, it's gonna be all right. It's not the end of the world.
Absolutely. But if you look at the news or social media, it seems like everyone is out to get you, and that can't be the case, because like it's who you put yourself around. Show me your friends and I show you you. I know I'm giving these little quotes, but it's true in life. And, we have had tragedies, and I'm sure people wouldn't even realize what's gone on if they knew with my smiling face. But I try to
Yeah,
be like, want people to feel that value and appreciation, even
sure.
my coworkers. And I'm getting off of where I was going with
That's all
this,
right.
but it's just a matter of staying true to you. And also, even though I was just saying, oh, it could be worse, but we have to be good to ourselves, because we can have burnout. And I know what that feeling is, going, going, going. And then all of a sudden your mind just feels like something's going like this and you just can't focus. So you have to reset and recharge and know what's good for you, because like they say, put the oxygen mask on first, or you don't run your car without fuel to the end. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So you just have to make sure you treat yourself kindly, how you treat your best friend, treat yourself, put yourself
Yeah.
on a calendar,
Yeah.
block out the time you need, because things do happen. It's not always the set schedule. So you've got to prepare. You don't
Yeah.
hope a hurricane comes, but you've got the supplies just in case.
Right. And what's the buzzword? Like pivot. You have to be able to pivot.
Pivot.
Everybody likes to use that word, pivot. So, all right, Sloan, you have anything for that?
No, I think you guys covered it. That was beautiful. Yeah. I like that. But yeah, the pivot. I'm still
The
still working
pivot.
on the pivot.
That's a very AI word. That's a very chat GPT word, the pivot.
It makes me think of Friends. Wasn't there a Friends
Right.
episode where it was pivot?
Yeah. Ross was with the couch trying to pivot
Couch.
down up the steps. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it makes me think of. Not AI, not technical.
Makes me
Friends.
think of chat GPT because like it's not doing it so much now, but for like when it first came out, it was like every single thing that were like pivot, pivot, pivot. I'm like, please stop. What's the other word that resonated?
Resonate. Resonate.
Resonate and pivot. Okay. We got off on a tangent there. Go ahead.
You do have a project management background, and a lot of the people that we work with and get to speak with, they also come from a project management background. How does that discipline strengthen executive leadership?
Not everyone has the project management background. Simplifying it, even if you don't have the credentials or the certifications, everyday life, whether you're a mom or a CEO, there's projects. So you have to be able to balance, have to be able to know what the scope of that project is, have your deliverables, have the timeline. So in one way, that balance is having the leadership. Leaders should know when you're leading or even managing your team where we want to be, where the timeline is, but also make room for the things that happen that we're not planning on happening. So, and the emotions of your team, having that resilience, leading with humanity,
Uh-huh.
all of those characteristics do come together with a full recipe of a great product. So having to just keep those in mind is what's important, rather than, again, just looking at the words on a list or a handout. That you can have your notes, but life happens, and it's never going to be that is expect. That's why they even say with project management, you have to also plan for the other outcomes that might happen, and how do you move, instead of saying pivot, how do you change so that you keep on that direction, keep on seeing the finish line.
And nobody's going to want to say pivot now that I said that. So no,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. You can use the word pivot and resonate if you want to. So when you're talking about project management, though, that's why it's also really, really important to like continue to learn and grow and to kind of have that kind of extenuating, extensive growth path I think we can go like with anything, it can get too big, right? Like we're just doing too much. We're trying to do too much learning and development. It gets overwhelming. But I think I know last summer, I took some time. I had some downtime and I took some time, just sat outside in the sun by the pool with my laptop. And I took some product management courses, which for those of you who aren't in that space, like there's project management where you're managing a project, and then there's product management where you have a product, like a tangible thing, whether it's, a book or a phone or, whatever the product itself is. And you learn how to best approach the development of those products as well as the branding of the projects. I spent some time, about a month and a half, maybe 2 months, like really, really diving deep into that just for myself, just because I wanted to know. What I didn't know at the time was that God had this trajectory planned and that I really needed that time to really kind of hone in on some of those skills that I've been doing for a long time, but didn't really know like the proper language for it or the proper output for it. And so my point being in that rambling is that it's important that sometimes we do step back and we take that opportunity to do just some personal learning and development on different topics. And I know like in your teaching and your training and your coaching, you advocate for that as well. And of course, with degrees and in the academic space and things like that. But I think sometimes it's just like, okay, what are you interested in? Sit down, take a break, learn about it, just to kind of keep your mind and your skills sharp in things, or learn something new, learn something you don't know anything about. So, anyways, my point in that is, regardless of whether it's project management or not, I think part of that discipline is just continuing to hone in on, learning and development and what can I grow from. And then you might be just shot into a totally different trajectory. You never know. I love that I know that you're a big proponent for that, and I love that you are. So I'll let you speak to that a little bit too.
Absolutely. As far as self-reflection, we have that a lot in our leadership and management specializations, because what better topic than you, as far as who knows you better than yourself, and how you can learn more about yourself through examples. And some of the students haven't gotten a job yet. They're doing internships. So time is on their side, which is wonderful. Then we have those who have maybe changed their position and wanted to come back for a degree as far as management and then leading others, or they just wanted to have that a credential for themselves. That was their goal. So as far as having the self-reflection and accountability, those two things really make a difference as you're moving through life, having different examples of, you know, it's so hard to say or give you just one cookie
Sure.
cutter example, but it's really important for others to just know themselves instead of having someone else tell you who you are. We focus better when we can just not be like the group. Sometimes they say the black sheep. Well, maybe that person stepped out of the comfort zone. I'm just
Mhm.
giving an example. I don't know anything specific about that, but just like, don't
Yeah.
just listen to what's told, not to respect authority, yes, and rules, but just don't go based on what you hear. Do I like this? Maybe there's another way to do it. Maybe there's a better outcome.
Yeah, I
So,
think a lot of that's listening to your teams, right?
right,
If one, we've talked about this before too, like if there's something that you don't like doing, I mean, you're gonna have to do things you don't like to do. It's like, when you're raising kids and stuff, you got to go to school, you got to do, your chores or whatever. There's things in life that, well, that's not our favorite thing, but we have to do it. But then there's opportunities that we have if we're leading well for, our teams to come to us and say, hey, this is not really where I shine. This is not really my thing. I know you gave me this task and I'll do it, but I might not be the best person for this particular task or project or whatever the case may be. And as a leader, instead of getting all bent out of shape about that, you should encourage that. You should encourage your teams to be able to come to you and have those discussions. And you may have to have a hard discussion and say, look, I am sorry that you don't like that, but you still have to do it. But we'll work on in the future, we'll put that on the list of maybe we need to hire somebody else to do that in the future. But right now we're gonna pull together and do that thing. And then also just giving people the opportunity to be open and honest about those things and creative. I think a lot of people, regardless of the space or the industry, they have creativity in their head that they would like to be able to do and not just, like punch a clock,
right,
9 to 5, 8 to 4. let them have ideas too. Let them share their ideas too. And then be respectful about, okay, well, that's not something we can do right now, but maybe in the future we can do it. Or, you know what, that sounds really interesting. Let's set up a meeting and let's talk about that. Let's like have some dedicated time. But I think it's a lot about, like you said, like allowing people, like we can't all just be, it's like not a free for all, right? We got to come in, we got to do the job that's created or the project that we're working on. Of course, an end goal that we're trying to all make an income. But I think that it's really important that we can, I don't want to say like have fun, but I do kind of want to say have fun. Like we can enjoy the work that we're doing.
Mhm.
We can enjoy the people that we're working with. And I think too, like don't let somebody who is on your team who is toxic, if you've had 5 people come to you and say, this person is toxic, we cannot work with them, and you just keep the person and keep this. Sometimes you have got to make a decision that this person is toxic to my team, and rather than losing 9 of my team members, I'm going to let this one go, regardless of the credentials, right? It's not,
Right. And the productivity, a toxic person could be, being the best performer, but it's bringing everybody else down.
yeah,
And it's not especially when you're at work more than you're at home, if it's,
yeah.
your profession.
Yeah. And you
Absolutely.
don't want your team carrying the load of somebody else either. I mean, you need to listen to your team. You need to have one-on-ones with your team. You need to, or your students or whatever the case may be. I think it's really just that human connection. And I think in the age of AI that we're in, that could be lost too. You could just say, oh, well, I could say, Sloan, you can do anything with AI. Just do it with the AI. That doesn't mean that it's going to be done well. It doesn't mean it's going to be the best output for our clients. It doesn't mean that it's the best case scenario. So I think learning and listening to your teams is really, really key, regardless of if it's small teams or large teams.
And you don't want to lose your creativity either with
No,
AI. I mean, we tell our students, okay, it's not like we're going to catch you. Oh, you're copy and paste a paper. When you graduate, your employers want to know how are you going to use and embrace AI. So what we do, at least many of us, we have exercises. Okay, let us know how you used AI. What are the references that you utilize? Use it as a reference versus your whole being, because you don't want to use it in place of your own mind. And that's where your skills develop, even
well, that
outside
takes
college.
integrity, right? I mean, that's going to
Right,
take, especially in academia, that's integrity. Are
right.
you going to do the work? Or you can utilize that as a tool, right? It's no different than an encyclopedia resource.
Uh-huh.
You can use it as a resource, cite it as a resource,
Right.
but don't say that it's your own because it's not. Look, I can do 20 hours worth of work in 5 minutes. And I'm well aware of that. But is it wholeheartedly my work? No, of course it's not. Is it good? Sometimes, but it doesn't make that it wholly Amanda's work. It's a collective effort. It's like if I was to do something with you, Ellen, then that would be a collective effort of work. It's no different. So I think we can, yeah, I could see in academia that would get really, really tedious with people like just utilizing that to get it done. But then where's your integrity? And at the end of it, do you really have a degree? Did you earn a degree? I don't know that you did.
Yeah. We've got some great students. Of course, you have those that just need to get by because they're stressors outside of the
Sure.
deadlines. And then you talk to them and then they learn. And then you just see brilliance transforming them and coming out of the final product. So it doesn't matter. And then even when we talk about toxic people at work, I mean, maybe no one's ever told them, hey, what you're doing isn't working. So if they even had a talk with them, maybe they're hurting. I don't know. This is a psychology aspect of it. They can transform too, rather than, you're fired. Maybe like it depends. Everyone's different.
Agreed.
Not
Agreed. I
everyone
think
has
that
a
there,
soul,
yeah.
but it's just like you hope that, you're here for a reason. And what kind of legacy can you leave behind that lives beyond you? And if
Oh, we're
that's
about to talk about that. So that's good.
okay.
um,
Yes.
so we're going to wrap up because I want to be
Yeah.
respectful of your time. But on this podcast, we ask every single guest the same 2 questions. We've not had the same answer to any of them. So don't get hung up on that. But we're going to ask you the same 2 questions we asked everybody.
Okay, so who has had a significant influence on your leadership and why?
That's a great question. Personally, I would say my father, as far as he was an idea man, he was really brilliant. I'd say as far as, he had a different sense of humor. So you could either, did he just say that or did he mean that? But he led with integrity. He was in the financial industry. So when you have someone who's Italian that moved to South Florida, you have people, but he lived with integrity. I just remember him taking the time to speak to me no matter what. He'd have a home office too. And as a kid, I'd come in, he'd always stop what he was doing. And that really resonated with me. And I've tried to do that with my daughter as well. Stop what I'm doing if I
Yeah.
can, other than if I'm on a podcast, I can't stop what I'm doing to listen. But yeah, so I feel he did have a big influence on me. And as far as when you think of leaders out there now, I think Brene Brown is wonderful. Researcher from Texas. She's also a professor, but when she talks about vulnerability and people, sometimes they shy away from that, whatever gender it is, but it's okay to be vulnerable because in the right sense, because people can use that against you if they're not ethical or have integrity. But if you allow that, then that shows your human side. And then that just makes a difference with those around you. So that's what I think as far as leaders out there and then leaders personally to me.
Great answer. Wonderful
Thanks.
answer. All right, last question. When you think about the legacy that you're building, what do you hope people will remember about you?
Well, that I was kind, that I also made you feel valued with what you brought to the table, or even in our own interactions personally or in a group setting for work. I'd also help to lead healthier and also human-centered aspects of life rather than just the technical, because we're on a really fast pace, and sometimes it's okay to get off the spin, the hamster wheel, I guess, and just really think of nature. Not to sound corny, but I mean, nature's all around us, and we can kind of learn from animals too how to behave. So I would hope that what I leave is just empowering others to recognize their strengths and use them in a positive way, not to
I
hurt
can
others.
honestly say that that's exactly what I would say. You said that you're kind. And that's, if I had one word to describe you, that is
Well,
what I would describe you as. When I was telling Sloane about you, because she didn't know you. And I was like, you're going to love her. She's amazing. She's such a
oh, that's
beautiful
sweet.
person and so kind and so good. And you're always very, very good about like just checking on people and, hey, how are you doing? Even in the midst of what things that you're going through. And that's exactly how I would describe you. I wore yellow today because you always send little yellow hearts, and I will remember you because of that. I think
Yeah,
it's so
friendship.
beautiful. Yeah, I love it. And so, yeah, that's
Oh, that's
exactly
sweet.
how I describe you.
Aw, thank you. I
Yeah.
do feel the same. You make me feel comfortable.
Oh,
I know there was spontaneity in my
yeah.
answers, but I just hope that whoever might be listening, there are people that care out there, and you aren't alone.
Yeah.
Just reach out to people if you are unsure of something or want to learn, because we're all in this together, and we're in this timeline together, and
And the world is
hopefully,
crazy, and don't listen to all the noise. Know that there are
right,
people, real people like us three, ladies, like life is real, right? And we've walked through some very real stuff, and it's okay, and I think we need to be more like you. I think we need to be more kind and more attuned to other people's feelings. And I aspire to be more like that. You are one of my role models, and it's
yeah,
been, yeah, absolutely an honor to work on some projects with you, to do some things, just to stay in touch, to connect.
absolutely.
One day I'm going to come down there and just visit, and we'll go to the
I love
beach
you
and
too. I'd welcome you with open arms and
amen,
bunch of
amen.
yellow hearts.
And well, so we're going to put below this episode how people can connect with you, because you should go connect with Dr. Ramsey. She's brilliant, and you should be a part of what she's doing with her business, her silver lining coaching, the leadership model, all of these things. And then if now, you guys teach online too, or just in person?
You're too kind. Oh no, we teach on campus and online.
Okay, I thought so, but I didn't want to say something. So she's at Lynn University, and so you can kind of look her up there as well, and you can take some courses and classes from her there. But yeah, one of my favorite people for sure. You're such a beautiful person. What
Yeah,
an honor to be in touch with you. It's amazing to me. It's never lost on me the way that God orchestrates things and puts people together and puts people in my life. And so I'm so grateful for you. And thank you,
thank you
Sloane,
so
for
much,
doing another podcast with me.
Sloan.
Of
So
course.
nice to meet you too. Yeah,
Yes.
and hopefully this is not the end of talking with you, regardless of a podcast,
Yeah,
Sloan. Too.
absolutely.
Very
Well, we'll
sweet.
put
Thank
all your
you.
information below. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you? Is it your LinkedIn or?
Yeah, I guess LinkedIn would be a great way
Okay,
because I'm
awesome.
on that frequently. So that
Yeah,
would be a
well,
good
we'll put that
way to start.
information and how people can get a hold of you and all of that. And then your website too. It's ellenramseyphd.com. What's your
Right.
PhD again? I can't remember.
It's in corporate leadership.
That's right. That's right. I have a hard time remembering all their
You shouldn't
corporate
have to.
leadership.
I'm like an anomaly. My master's is in international business. My undergrad is in psychology and business. So I guess, it all blends,
That's why
hopefully.
we can't talk to you too long because then you'll be like the psychology part will come out too much. You'll be.
No,
I'm
no
just kidding.
judgment here. I know what you're
I'm
saying.
totally kidding. No, I love you to
Thank you.
pieces. I'm so grateful for you. What an honor to have you on the podcast. I hope that whoever's listening, that you guys will have taken something away from this and that you will connect with Dr. Ramsey. And thank you for listening to us if you made it this far on the podcast, because I know we're a little kooky, but like and subscribe and all those good things and follow us. And I don't know why, but that, so that you can hear other crazy conversations that we have. So
Thank you
thank you
so
ladies
much
so
for
much for
having
being on
me.
with me today.
Really appreciated it. Thank you.